The world has experienced numerous and amazing advances in technology over the last 200 years. The leaps forward in communication and the tools we use to communicate have skyrocketed in the last 100 years, from the simple codes of the telegraph that required time-consuming deciphering to the instant and complex connections that the cellular phone, internet, and other types of tools we use today. Measuring by today's standards, it's hard to imagine that some of these forms of communications have fallen into the obsolete category. But not so far back in human history, we still used our friends from the animal kingdom to convey messages. One of those friends was a feathery, rather silly-looking, and some would even call a stupid bird called the pigeon. And to be more specific, the carrier pigeon. In this presentation, I will discuss the history of the carrier pigeon, some of their uses, and the current status of the forgotten form of media. Everyone, I'm sure, is familiar with pigeons, hanging out in a downtown area, scampering around, looking for scraps of food, and their most famous activity, which is giving good use to those stoic statues. These lively birds are much more than nuisances that they have a reputation for. They can accomplish astounding feats with their abilities as messengers and their baffling gift of never getting lost. Carrier, or otherwise known as homing pigeons, were once the internet of the ancient world and were still used in important courier activities through the 1980s. My love and interest in ornithology dates back several years, and through personal study and hours of observation, I have solid general knowledge of pigeons, and I hope I can share that with you today. I will discuss the carrier pigeon, its history, and the current state of carrier pigeon as a form of communication. According to the International Federation of American Homing Pigeon Fanciers, the carrier pigeon is a special breed of pigeon that is capable of finding its way home from any location that the bird may be taken to, including areas the pigeon has never been to before, and it includes extremely long distance away from its original point. Scientists have no definite data to show why pigeons could find their way home, but some believe that they have built-in internal compass that works in unison with the magnetic fields of the Earth. Others have speculated that carrier pigeons navigate using landmarks just like humans would follow a map using roads. But nevertheless, the abilities of the pigeon to return to their home from a previously unknown place is mysterious and exciting. Man understood pigeons' abilities and began to harness their abilities by attaching very small containers to their pigeons' legs, and inside the containers was tiny paper containing a message written as small as possible to not weigh down the bird. The pigeon would return home, which was usually a coop near the destination of the message, and there you would have what would be called the original airmail. Many ancient civilizations used carrier pigeons as a delivery service dating back 3,000 years. The Romans, the Persians, the Mongols are just a few that used pigeons. Throughout the centuries that followed, carrier pigeons were used during wartime to convey secret messages from behind enemy lines. They were used during the Franco-Prussian War, World War I, and by the Allies during World War II in the 1940s to send urgent messages that could not get through any other way. Carrier pigeons' importance cannot be understated as a tool of getting out news from remote areas or impossible situations. Even the repressive Taliban regime that ruled Afghanistan before the U.S. invasion banned the possession and usage of possessions for relaying information. In the high-tech era of instant communication that has eliminated the distance between us and what is the current state and future of carrier pigeons? Well, carrier pigeons were last used during the 1970s and 80s by French and British hospitals to send critical medications between the two facilities. But since there are no carrier pigeons being used, since then there are no carrier pigeons being used in official capacities. There are a few people today that raise homing pigeons not to relay messages, not to relay messages between points, but as competition, as racing birds, which breeders use to take out and see which one will arrive first. It is good to know that the art of raising carrier pigeons is still in practice and has not become a completely lost art. The importance of a carrier pigeon as a form of communication over the ages has stood the test of time. With critical information during wartime being delivered and medications delivered for needy patients, the carrier pigeon has proven their worth. It would be a terrible shame to see the amazing skill fall into the waste bin of history because of the current high-speed communication tools we use today have eliminated their need. let's hope the few talented people that raise homing pigeons and race homing pigeons to this day keep the magical form of communication and spirit alive for future generations to use. You never know. We might need to use them as a primary form of communication again sometime in the future. So the next time you walk down the street, you ride in the car, and you look at a statue and you see a pigeon hanging out, remember their importance as a form or tool of communication. And don't look at them as if they're just some kind of common bird. Pigeons have special and mysterious talents and are rare and beautiful and should be appreciated. Thank you for your time.